So why would a raw powerlifter train in briefs? There are a couple good reasons why training in briefs can be beneficial to a raw powerlifter. It really helps reinforce opening up your hips and pushing your knees out. It's also very easy on the hips. So in the off season, it's something that you can implement that's easy on the hips and it's not going to be too taxing. However, it can be taxing to your CNS, obviously, or can help really strengthen your back and is very beneficial for controlling the descent. You have to control the descent. It helps with sort of keeping the weight mid-foot as long as you are under control. And it's very much helpful for overloading your raw squat, depending on how the briefs fit you. So I recently implemented this with a couple of my athletes. Robbie Wesley just finished up training. He was primarily squatting in sleeves, and then he was transitioning to wraps, where he's going to be competing in Vegas shortly. So we did a very short block where he trained in briefs and knee wraps. After taking the briefs off, he came to hit a huge PR. He just hit 580 for 5, which is a big lifetime PR for him. Bobby Foltz, he squats raw, and he's planning on competing raw. The reason I had Robbie actually squat in briefs was his knees were kind of caving in a little bit on his top heaviest sets. So it was an idea of mine to use the briefs to help reinforce that, kind of like I talked about before. Bobby Foltz, he would have a little back rounding, so strengthening his upper back. That was kind of an idea for that as well as just another overload idea. He was someone I just kind of personally wanted to get into briefs for him to try out. But, so he just squatted 800 pounds, and he is a squatter who hit 535 pounds raw. Now, I have yet to see that much of a discrepancy in weight from a raw brief squat versus raw squat, unless you are extremely skilled in gear, which he is obviously not. He did well with it, but he only trained 7 weeks before hitting that. So that was very impressive. So I have to think that his raw squat is going to be up, and that's what we're kind of transitioning to in the next couple weeks. Now, the reason I had these guys do this and where the idea kind of stemmed from was I squatted in briefs, and the strongest my raw squat in wraps ever was after I ran a couple short cycles in briefs. And I felt after I took the briefs off, it was so much easier to push my knees out. It was almost effortless, and I would always have a problem kind of rounding my back and my hips shooting back on me out of the hole and folding over. After training in briefs, that was gone. The overload itself, it was just so much easier to stay upright throughout the raw squat. So I went on to hit huge PRs after training in briefs. So that's kind of where the idea came from, as well as discussing with Bob Merck. He's now one of the best multiply powerlifters in the world. And this would have been back probably 2016, 2017, where he began transitioning to multiply lifting. And this is when I started kind of training in briefs a little bit for a short period of time. And we had a discussion on some of the benefits and how it can be beneficial for raw powerlifters. So this was something that I wanted to try and sort of use Robbie and Bobby as guinea pigs, and Robbie seeing the benefits right now, and I'm very interested to see how Bobby responds now that he's transitioning back to raw, just to sort of see how it all kind of develops for them going into the future. But it is something that's a tool. It's not something that I would recommend for every raw powerlifter, but it's something for some raw powerlifters, depending on their situation, it can be beneficial. And it can be something that you can implement that could benefit the raw powerlifter. And those are just a couple of reasons why. So I just wanted to make this video and touch on that a little bit, and so I don't just look crazy for throwing briefs on a raw powerlifter, but it's something that can be beneficial. And if you apply it correctly, and in my opinion, used for short blocks, and the way I kind of did it is I had them train in briefs for short blocks, 6 to 8 weeks, anywhere in there. So they're not completely losing their raw skills as they're training in briefs. I had Bobby, and I think Robbie as well, actually squatting twice a week. One would be raw, and then I think I had Bobby doing like light speed squats before he deadlifted. Very much an off-season kind of program for him, but at least to stay somewhat fresh. So now that the briefs are off, I believe he's going to be squatting just once a week now, and going to kind of be progressively increasing the weight there. So that's all I got. Briefs can be a good tool, and it's just an option for you as a raw powerlifter. So Don't be hating on gear. It's something that can be used and when applied correctly can be beneficial. That's all I got.